Wait. Okay, so we are live, and now we are live broadcasting through YouTube on Ukrainian media channel TV Union. My name is Yuri Antashuk and Anastasia Grishko. We are from Kherson, and now we have our guest, Daniela.
Daniela Gerson.
Daniela Gerson, and I'm in Los Angeles, California, actually specifically in Alhambra, California, which is part of LA County, but it's outside of LA City.
Okay, so if you're watching us, you can ask your questions on YouTube or Google Plus or Twitter, and we will see your questions and we will showing them to our monitor, to our live broadcast. Okay.
So maybe Daniela is the editor of hyperlocal community media channel, and maybe Daniela will tell us a little about how it was created. Yes, we made an interview. You can read it on our website, fundunion.org. But maybe Daniela will say something more emotionally, and we will take this energy to create our hyperlocal communities. So Daniela, please tell how did you create Alhambra Source, and maybe what are your plans? Okay, so let you speak.
My background is in reporting on immigration issues. I reported for a daily newspaper in New York and for some international news outlets and public radio. And I came to University of Southern California, which is located in Los Angeles, to be part of a program that was starting to cover on how to cover immigrant communities. And a professor there, Michael Parks, who used to be, he actually was a Moscow correspondent for many years for the Los Angeles Times and editor of the LA Times, and another professor, a communication scholar, Sandra Balro-Keach, were interested in how local news can impact civic engagement, particularly in multi-ethnic communities. So a city like Alhambra, which has about a 50% Asian population, a third Hispanic, and 10% white. And so the idea was like, how do you come into a city that does not have much news coverage and create news that crosses different ethnic backgrounds and also makes residents feel more involved in their city, have higher levels of civic participation, be more likely to vote, take a stand in an issue. And so that's what we've been working on for the past 5 years in Alhambra.
And so in 5 years, did you achieve your goal? Can you tell now that people, immigrants who lives in Alhambra, they maybe became more involved in social life?
So I would say there are many ways in which we've succeeded, and there are also ways where we still have a lot of work to do. I'd say we've succeeded in getting residents, particularly a small group of residents. We've had about 100 people contribute, but there's a core group that's probably about 20 people who have contributed regularly over the past few years. And bringing them together to try and contribute to a community news site and make contact not only across ethnic lines, but also we have high school students to retirees, people who you wouldn't usually see coming together to work on a project together. Some people with very high levels of education, engineers, other people who don't have a high school, who just have a high school diploma, and who are all working together on this. So that's one way in which we brought people together. Other ways have been covering city council. Tim, who's sitting next to me right now, is just working on a piece about a water ordinance. There's been a drought in California, and what's happening next to protect against, to make people use less water. There didn't used to be anyone covering City Hall in this small city. It's a city of about 85,000 people, and we've been there covering City Hall ever since we started. And then I'd say like a final way is when you strengthen a storytelling network, when people are receiving news, we also found that city officials are reading the news we produce. And one example of a way in which that took off was one of the contributors wrote about how he felt there were better ways to reach Chinese residents and suggested using Chinese language social media. The police chief read it And then he launched a program called Weibo, using Weibo, which is a Chinese version of Twitter, and also WeChat, another Chinese version of Twitter. And they've received more than 40,000 followers on Weibo, and many residents writing in that they feel more connected and more calls in Chinese to the police as well.
And maybe I have one question. I'm sorry. Maybe you have another hyperlocal community in your community, or you are just the only one?
So, we started a time which across the United States, people were launching different hyperlocal sites. It was a huge trend. Universities were doing it. There was a large networked approach from AOL. It was called Patch. It still exists, but in a dialed down form. And so there's sites across the country that have come up. Now you see 5 years later, there aren't as many remaining. They've created a network, network of independent sites called Lion. And so I actually don't live in Alhambra. I live close. I live about 7 miles from here. And there's a very vibrant hyperlocal, LA is so big that hyperlocal, how do you define hyperlocal? Is it 60,000 people? Is it 10,000 people? Is it your neighborhood? Is it your city? So the one that's in my neighborhood, he covers an area that probably includes a couple 100,000 people.
So how you see what's the most maybe difference between hyperlocal community media and usual media? What's the difference between them?
Yeah, it's interesting because we had an event recently, and at our event, a reporter from the Los Angeles Times was there. The Los Angeles Times is the mainstream media, main newspaper for Los Angeles. And the reporter said he found it really moving because you could actually see the direct impact we were having on people. I think that's the difference of working at really a local level, is you can see how you're impacting people, and you also hear from them more often when they're not happy. You can call up the police chief, the mayor, everyone, in a way that it's harder to get access. Maybe the LA Times, you can get access to most of them, but they have a lot of people covering it. They're covering a huge area. So we can talk to all the people of power, but then we also talk to residents, and we can get feedback directly from residents as well and get residents involved. That's why I would say it's hyperlocal. And then the other part about it is the digital element, right? People started using the word hyperlocal. In some ways, we're the translation of the community newspaper, or the community radio station or television to a digital format. But then what's exciting about it is things like what you guys are doing. How do you take that and find new ways for people to communicate, to engage, by whether it's some of the mapping stuff that you've done, or the interactive mapping, or having a Google Plus with Twitter and all these different things going on at once. So there's multiple avenues for people to communicate in a way that they couldn't really engage in the past.
And what is the most complexity of the creating and maybe development of hyperlocal community, your hyperlocal community media?
So for ours, and I think this is one of the issues in a lot of cities in Los Angeles, one is that people don't necessarily feel always affiliated to Alhambra. Alhambra is an independent city, but it's like a sprawling part of a sprawling suburban area. And so part of the reason people don't feel affiliated necessarily is there's been a lot of movement in the past few decades. So you have a lot of different immigrant groups moving in and out. We didn't have strong media. There's a lot of change happening that would mean people don't feel connected to that place. So I think one thing is just getting people connected to the media outlet. Another is if you're dependent on a team that's not professionals. That's hard because, one, they don't have the skills of being professionals. They're not full-time journalists. And then the other part is they're volunteering a lot. A lot of our writers were volunteering. It's great because they have different backgrounds and interests, and they have insights that someone who's a professional reporter like myself, who comes from the outside, wouldn't have. But it's also hard to work with them, and it's a slower rate of return as well. And so those are some challenges. And then the last one is money. I think people still haven't figured out a really successful funding model. There's a lot of attempts, but funding model, just like media in general, is still challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you working with the usual media?
So we collaborate with mainstream media in various ways. There are a couple different, we've tried it in a lot of ways. there are a few nonprofit sites which have emerged as well in the United States recently around a theme. So one is an education site. They report on issues to do with education. They're out of New York City, and a former colleague of mine works there. We worked with them on doing a bunch of stories about education issues. There's another site called Zocalo. Zocalo means town square in Spanish. And Zocalo looks at issues in Los Angeles and does a lot of first-person work. Do you want me to write the URLs for some of these here? Would that be helpful? Or at least the names. Zocalo. Let me get there.
What is
Zocalo Public Square is what it's called. Okay.
So maybe you can open in.
Sorry, another colleague just arrived. This is Kyle Garcia.
Hello.
Hi.
Should I can work in the other room.
No,
You can stay. You may stay.
Yeah, we're doing a interview with Ukraine.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, okay, I'll listen if that's okay.
Yeah, you can listen and work. So Zocalo Public Square is another one that we've done. They do events and a lot of mostly first person sort of personal storytelling. We've also worked with the local public radio. So that's public radio is a big thing in the United States. NPR is the national affiliate, National Public Radio. Oops, you just switched the screen. Oh, you did that on purpose. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, I just clear my screen to show our.
Yeah. So yeah, great. So what you see there, I'll be in like half an hour. So what you see there is these are some mostly first-person stories, like the one about going away to college. Then they also have other stories. They have poetry up there. It's sort of they're trying to create a new model for news, and they've worked with us with some of our stories. And then actually some of our writers have gone on to work for them as well. So they're one example. KPCC is the public radio station. Hechinger Report, which I think is this, is this is it's an education nonprofit. So basically, we found lots of different ways to work with mainstream media. I also, when we have a big story, sometimes where we don't have, just close the door. We don't have the ability to do a lot of investigative reporting. We don't really have a professional staff right now. Sorry. And yeah, so Hechinger Report's an interesting model that's really emerged recently in the United States of going in deep on specific topics. There's other ones around health. There's Kaiser Health News. There's Center for Investigative Reporting. In these, I actually work with another one that goes on health issues. And the idea is to have specialized reporters that go deep in topics. So we worked with them because they had more expertise on education, developing a series of stories about education, working with young adults. So those are a few of the ways. And I think that, yeah. And then we've also used mainstream reporters as mentors because we've done some youth journalism programs. So we've taken them to mentor the young people here as well. And it creates connections where their stories get out. And then also it lets mainstream reporters know more about what's going on in this community.
Okay, thanks.
So I know that there are a lot of community media in the United States, and a lot of them getting big grants from the donor organizations.
Yeah.
And what kind of maybe I don't know how they find money.
Yeah, very good question. So I would show you one thing. I think I sent this to you before, but newstraining.org, I think that's what it's called. We tried to outline on this some different ways for people to look for money, particularly independent news sites. grants, you know, I'm sure you've experienced it, they run out and donors change their minds. There have been a lot of interest in grant funding here over the past few years, and then it seems to have sort of gone down a little bit. So if you scroll down on this, I think if you go to identifying and cultivating revenue streams, it's in the top. Sorry, I didn't mean to, that one with like Benjamin Franklin on the cover. So this one's pretty good at looking at different revenue streams. And if you, there's a worksheet on the bottom, which just basically says different things to look at, like different potential revenue streams. And so through this, we outline a bunch of different ones. But I'd say, you know, there's no one that has people found that work. Some people try advertising, some do foundation funding. There's local, state, federal funds. Some people do events. Events have been pretty interesting to me, looking at some of these sites that have been really successful. I'd say Zocalo, actually, they put on a lot of events. Another one that I found really interesting is there was a site called Brownstoner in New York City. Brownstones are a type of building in Brooklyn. And it was really mostly a real estate blog, but he was able to do a lot of events through it and create different markets that built off of his audience. He had a really big audience and he was able to monetize that. So I'd say there's a variety. It's, in some ways, it's just trying different things. I'm curious, what's been working in Ukraine? Have you found any new funding models that we should know about?
No.
No.
We hope to, maybe you can help us to find models that could help us, because hyperlocal journalism or just local journalism are on a very low level. So maybe we want.
No, I mean, another one that's interesting, I don't know if I sent this to you before, that I wrote about is the site in Chile. Let me send you this.
You know, now we had a lot of political medias. Or maybe it's independent media, but the owner of these media resources are
different politics.
Different politics, yeah.
We just create these resources for elections only, and then they just stop they stop their living. So
yeah. Well, if you look at this article I just sent you, Mi Voz is an interesting example from Chile, where they created a network, and they have 4 different revenue streams. One is from advertising. One is from consulting they do on new media trends, something similar to, I'm sure you would be very prepared to do. Another is for advertising. They found that most of Chile is very centered in Santiago, the capital, but places didn't know the regional, big companies didn't know how to do outreach to different regions. And so they found that they were able to do that. Street Fight, by the way, is a site that looks at the business of hyperlocal in the United States. So they might be an interesting one for you to follow as well. They look at different business models.
Thanks. Okay. So, no, we can't say that in Ukraine there is no local journalism or no local communities.
Community, yeah. Community.
There are, but we have a lot of what to learn from you. So that's why we created this program, and that's why we just want to communicate with editors who knows what to do. Because, of course, for example, for local journalism in Ukraine, there are almost no money. And people try to create, maybe some bloggers try to create some of their own blogs, but they are not so effective as some media. And later it happens so that later these bloggers begin to take bribes or to begin to write some paid materials. So that's why it's not effective so much. And we don't have in Ukraine, as Ukraine government don't take any grants for hyperlocal communities and especially for media. They try to control big all Ukrainian media, and that's all.
Maybe they could give money for political media resources.
Got it. Well, I was curious, like, how has the conflict made any difference in terms of the development of citizen media or community media in Ukraine?
Well, it's really important. Maybe it's right question. It's right question because now it's very, very strong propaganda in the Ukrainian and Russian space, cyberspace, maybe. And now we try to find fakes and to teach active citizens, to teach NGOs how they could find fakes. Yes. Now,
that's really interesting.
Well,
and do you feel like more people are active though? Because I mean, we talked a little bit about the development of what is it, Hadraske? Sorry, my pronunciation is totally wrong. Hromadske TV.
Hromadske TV.
Yeah, it's one of the most popular media channel, online media channel in Ukraine, and it's broadcast through YouTube on English, Ukrainian, and maybe it's one of the most important civic media.
But maybe its impact is not so big now because, well, for example, yes, of course, we have a lot of all Ukrainian channels that trying to make fresh news about Ukrainian and to show the truth, what is really going on. But people from Ukraine have friends who was at the conflict zone, yes, and they know that there are a lot of different situations that all Ukrainian media say and what they show. So that's why maybe Ukrainians don't believe so much to every media. They want to, yes, but for example, I remembered one bright example when Russian propaganda is very strong and it's absolutely awful. For example, the main Russian channels showed news about the Black Sea. Yes, you know where is Black Sea? It's near the Crimea and Turkey, so it's on the border. And they told to Russians, and Russians believe that Ukrainians digged Black Sea to wash their clothes. Can you believe this? But people believe this, you see? So propaganda is so huge, has so huge sizes that people begin to believe that Ukrainians digged the sea to wash their clothes. It's absolutely, I don't know even how to say it.
What word do you mean? Make it a different color?
No, Russian channels told that Ukrainians
dug up the Black Sea by themselves, by Ukrainians. Yeah.
Okay.
By hands.
By hands.
Yes, and Black Sea appeared, and Ukrainians made Black Sea to wash their clothes.
And
so on.
The propaganda is huge, and the one of the most problem of Ukrainian media resources, and there are a little media resources on English. There are a lot of in Russian and Ukrainian, but the people in Europe, in the United States, they don't understand and they don't know what happened in Ukraine.
Yeah.
For example, you don't know what is happening, yeah?
Not enough.
One example. we were in Warsaw, in Poland last year, and we were interested to watch TV and news, local news, what Poland's see and know about Ukraine, about the crisis
In Ukraine.
and we saw only one new. And it turned 3 times 10 minutes, and Poland people were shown just there are tanks on the territory of Ukraine, and that's all. It's crisis. There are tanks, and it's all.
And the war
everywhere in all over
yeah.
Ukraine, and we spoke with our Poland colleagues, and they told us they don't want to go to Ukraine. Oh, how do you live in Ukraine? There is war in all the Ukraine. We say no, there are only 2 regions. It's just only one small part, rather small part of Ukraine, and there is no war in Kherson region, for example. But they don't believe. They just believe what the television they say, and that's awful also. So that's why we maybe try. By the way, we have an idea to translate Fund Union work in English. That maybe people who knows us, who communicate with us, because we communicate with international organizations, that they could know what's going on and what we are doing.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you feel like internet television works particularly well with Ukrainians? I mean, we're talking on internet TV. I know we were talking about Hadrasky.tv.
Well, I don't know.
Is it particularly popular in Ukraine, or is it popular?
It's not so popular because people don't know how to create such online broadcasts, live broadcasts, and maybe if they and we try to get conversation with our political online, for example, like Obama in the United States, when he through Google Hangouts speak with journalists or active citizens. Yeah, but our politics, they unfortunately maybe they don't want. They are afraid. Voices of people.
Because people begin to ask serious questions, and they don't have answers. So that's why I suppose they are not ready for such communication.
But we create a lot of trainings for NGOs, for civic society, how they could use more, maybe online tools, how they could create their online programs, how they could live broadcast using Google Hangouts or live stream, Ustream, and other technologies. And there are became a lot of people who try to do that, but they unfortunately can't find money to do it.
To prolong
their work. Their work.
Interesting. Are there other outlets like yours?
One more time.
Are there other hyperlocal outlets? Are there hyperlocal news outlets already in Ukraine?
Yeah, we have a lot of hyperlocal sites. We told you, but we suppose they are not.
But they are not community media. It's hyperlocal media, okay, but not community media. And
what type of themes do they cover? Topics.
We don't hear you well.
I know it's garbled a little. What type of topics do they cover? What type of themes? The other
politic topics, social topic, and they like to write dirty news. Maybe people like it.
Yeah.
Like scandals.
But yeah, there are lots of positive news also. But we really don't have community journalism. We have local, regional journalism. Yes, of course. And there are a lot of journalists who write and rewrite news of each other.
And maybe one of the problem is to engage people to the such community media. And try to say, okay, people, so if you see something interesting, you can write a story about it, but the people, they just watch, look, but they do not want to do anything.
They are not active.
They are not active.
Not active.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah, we have strong civic society. Yeah, civic society. There are a lot of NGOs, a lot of active citizens, and there are a lot of programs international from the United States Embassy, the British Council, and other a lot of the UNAIDS and a lot of them. But unfortunately, it's a small group of active citizens, small groups, people who understand what they can do and what Ukraine need.
For example, our last project, Yuri is a trainer in this project, and he is very active citizen. So we have a project with the British Council, and it calls Active Citizens. And within this project, we have to study not less than 50 people, active citizens, who will have their own project and who can implement them in future. Because British Council can give a little
small grants,
financial support for this.
So maybe you know about the Active Citizens program, because it's more than 40 countries program is working. So maybe.
Alhambra has lots of active citizens, so they don't
need the British Council. Yeah.
100 people writes for Alhambra. Of course, they don't need active citizens.
That's over 5 years. It was a lot of work. What other tools are you using to connect with people? So you use Google Plus, Twitter. What else do you use?
Google Plus and Twitter is not so popular in Ukraine. And we try to show people how they could use effectively Google Plus, for example. But the most active people use Facebook and Kontakte. It's a Russian social platform. Kontakte. The most popular it's Kontakte. And if we will maybe we will show you maybe okay, we'll chat you Kontakte. Yeah. Well, we show how, I don't know, how they could use their smartphones and tablets to live broadcast, or maybe some another tools, how to effectively show people some information. I don't know.
Yuri is he knows how to work with YouTube well, and last few months he is studying people how to use YouTube, how to create their own YouTube channel, how to promote it, and how to do everything correctly. Everybody think that YouTube, we know YouTube, what we have to do. No, we know about YouTube everything, but Yuri say that it's not true.
Yeah, a lot of people use YouTube just for host their videos, but YouTube could be a very strong platform, tool, very strong tool. And YouTube has a YouTube Creator Academy, and there are a lot of interesting online videos and courses how people could use it effectively, how they could communicate with their audience. So maybe if you are interested, you can just paste in Google.com just YouTube Creator Academy, and you will find a lot of online courses.
Great.
And I know that video, very effective technology, and it's
Yeah, developing.
it's very developing, and I know because the Twitter began it's organized video resources, the Instagram, a lot of online media sources become to use videos, and 4K and 8K and new formats of video. It's showing to us that it's very popular, and it's the future of our media.
Yeah.
Videos. Yeah, I think so. So I may have to actually go soon because they're doing a training. If that's it, can we do like a 2-part, like where we ask some more questions later?
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay. When do you want?
Well, do you have more questions? I mean, we could answer them now. They're doing a training here, and they're
Okay.
going to
Okay.
it.
It was nice to talk to you. See you later.
So,
It was
yeah.
nice to talk to both of you, and I'm going to send you some questions because I do want to I have some more questions for you as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we will write to you.
So we will just say to our viewers that we maybe in Russian or Ukrainian I will say.
Yeah.
У нас трансляция заканчивается. Друзья, спасибо вам за то, что вы посмотрите это потом в записи, потому что сейчас такое время, когда люди все пришли с работы, отдыхают. С нами была Daniela Gerson. Thank you, Daniela.
And see you later.
Yeah. So, see you. Bye.
I hope to see you very soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.